What it is, man, it's your big homie, the one and only T Wheels, coming at you with another session of Nuggets of Knowledge. Tonight, I just want to say this is a welcome session, so I just want to thank everybody for joining the community. And also, if you haven't, be sure to sign up or subscribe to my YouTube page as well, Wheels on the Tank, WILLS, Wheels on the Tank. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. Again, I just want to welcome everybody to the community. We're just going to talk tonight. I just want to talk to you guys about writer's block. For those who don't know who I am, my name is T Wheels, aka Terrell Wheels. I'm an MC as well, and I also give tips and tricks to those who may be aspiring or beginning MCs. So tonight we're gonna talk about something that every artist or every songwriter or every musician, anybody who writes lyrics or songs, I'm sure that you've experienced this, and this is called writer's block. Now, for those who may be new to the process of songwriting, who may be new to just rap in general, and may not exactly understand or know what writer's block is, and you probably have already experienced it already, but writer's block is a temporary or lasting failure to put words on paper. So that's pretty much where you're trying to come up with that hook, or you're trying to come up with that dope verse, or even just trying to get started, or maybe even trying to finish that last line. Tonight, I'm gonna go over a few tips and tricks that's gonna help you get through your songwriting process. And if you have if I may have missed any other tips and tricks or anything like that, if there's certain things that you use to help get you through your songwriting process, you be sure to comment and let us know what's your process and how you get down. So one thing that could be preventing you from writing that dope song, that dope verse, or that dope hook that you've been yearning to record, but you coming across that little struggle when you trying to write down your lyrics. So one thing that can possibly be a hindrance to you is the actual timing. It may not be at that particular time when you're trying to write, it may not be the right time to actually put to try to record it, meaning that your ideas need to stew a little bit. So one tip that you can use to get over writer's block is just to simply brainstorm. Once you find the music that you like or the beat that you like, from the production, or the producer that that you get your music from, take time to just listen to the beat, listen to the melody, see if you can find your flow. You may even have to do a little muttering, like da 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 da, just try to find your flow. And a lot of times once you find your flow, it'll be easier to insert lyrics. But also, just get a vibe, just vibe with the beat a little bit. What I personally like to do is I like to, listen to the beat, and if I can't think of nothing, I think of what type of feeling that this particular production is making me feel. So let's just say if I get a rowdy or gritty sounding beat, I'll just simply write a word like gritty. You know what I'm saying? It's just basically to describe how I'm feeling. And I try to get as many words as possible out to help describe as what that piece of music is making me feel inside. So once I'm able to, figure out how it's making me feel, then it's a little easier to compose lyrics, okay? So number one is make sure you give yourself time to brainstorm, mindstorm, or whatever you call it. Write down lyrics. You might have a hotline, even if it's whack, just write it down. You know what I'm saying? This will help you get through your writer's block, and eventually you'll come up with something that you like. So that's number one. All right, so number two is another thing that you can do to overcome writer's block is simply go for a walk. This has helped me out a lot, because if I'm sitting there trying to think of something, right, and I just keep wrecking my brain about it, and it almost gets to a point where I start forcing it. And that's one thing that you don't really want to do when it comes to writing your lyrics. You don't want to force it, because one thing's for certain, you definitely gonna put out something wet, you know what I mean, if you just have to force something. So even some of the most professional musicians, songwriters, they'll tell you that music is like a flow, it's a vibe, you know what I'm saying? So you just pretty much write what you feel. So what I would suggest is, go for a walk, clear your mind, clear your thoughts. And sometimes when you see different little pictures, as you're walking, it can inspire different thoughts. So that's one thing that you can do. Now, another thing that you can do is eliminate all distractions, right? So, sometimes when artists, what we tend to do is, when we get in the studio, we want to party, people be drinking, smoking, or whatever. But sometimes it's best to just eliminate all that, you know what I'm saying? Because your mind can be so cloudy that, it can cloud up your creativity a little bit. That's just me, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you might just have to step back, get in the room, whether it's the studio or your personal studio, whatever the case may be. And you sit down, man, and you just focus, because that's what it's all about. It's just focus, but at the same time, you still want to have fun, right? So that's another suggestion that I would say. Make sure that you eliminate all distractions. Number 3 is do something to get your blood flowing. Again, you got walking, or you can go running. Now, one thing that I have noticed is when I go run, my heart rate gets up. You know what I'm saying? I come back in, my blood flowing, my blood pumping. All type of thoughts are racing in my head, a lot of the time. So, in which case, that's a indication that, hey, I need to write something. I'm inspired, so I go ahead and jot something down. Or another thing that can help with writer's block, and this wasn't actually in my list, but if you have a home studio, I think if you have a home studio, this is so instrumental to your writing process, because you can be listening to something, you think of an idea, and you can just hop up and just lay it down. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's whack, right or wrong, you know what I'm saying? But this is just a way to get your creative juices flowing, all right? So another thing that you can do is change your environment. Again, sometimes you can be so caught up with, where you may be at that particular moment, stuck in the same place. Why not take that music, take that beat, that production, or whatever you want to call it, take it in your car and just drive around. And you wouldn't believe the type of inspiration that you can, get sometimes when you're driving around. I've come up with some of my best lyrics, some of my best songs, just moving and grooving and driving in the car. Moving, grooving, and cruising. So you know what I'm saying? Just hop in that car, take your music with you, sync your iPod up to your radio, and man, just vibe out. Not necessarily you can do a little freestyle, or you can just listen to the instrumentation of the music. And a lot of times that's been very instrumental to me as well. Now, another thing that can help you with your songwriting process is freestyling. And this is very important, I say, because in terms of freestyling, you don't necessarily even have to be serious. You can just be silly. A lot of times, even if you're being silly, you can come up with some of the most dopest stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of stuff that's out anyway is goofy. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so just be afraid. Don't be afraid to let loose. Just just put on that beat, man, and just freestyle, and you'll be surprised. Sometimes you'll come up with a flow that you'll like, by accident, or you might come up with some lyrics and be like, oh, that's hot, I can start that off. Or like I said, if you got your home studio, man, just record yourself, and then you can take some of your hottest lines and be like, okay, I like the way I said that. This can be the starting line, so that can be the first bar of your 16 bars. So that's something that I do as well. Now, another thing that you can do as well is listen to music, listen to other artists, listen to other sounds. This has been very instrumental to me, and I'm gonna give y'all a song in particular off my album Unsung. There's this one song I did called The Story of Mike, which is about a man who gets cheated on by his wife, and she ends up sleeping with his best friend. Now, how I was able to come up with this particular song was I was actually listening to the OJ's Backstabbers, because that particular beat, it had a certain sound to it. It gave me like an old school feel to it, and for some reason, every time I kept listening and vibing with that beat over and over and over again, it just made me think about the OJ's. So I immediately cut the beat off, and I went and listened to the OJ's, and one of their biggest songs is called Backstabbers. So as I'm listening to this song, I'm like, wow, that the music, the track that they were singing to, it had a similar vibe, with the music that I got from my producer. So I said, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this concept and I'm gonna go deep into it. See, what they did in that particular song, the OJ's, which is a dope song, by the way. Y'all make sure y'all go check that out if y'all haven't. But they just talked about, friends, smiling in your face and trying to get with your woman behind your back. So what I did was they just kind of scratched the surface of it. So what I did was I went deep. I took that particular concept and I went deep. I made a detailed story about it. I gave the characters names. I put certain situations in. They had kids. It's real dope. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check that song out, make sure you check it out on Unsung, and it's called Cold Dark Night, The Story of Mike. But that song was inspired by me listening to other types of songs, other types of music, because OJ's, that's not rap, but it was inspired by that song. So make sure you guys listen to different types of music, because it can put you in a different type of mind frame, in which case it can inspire you to take certain concepts and add it into your stuff. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you do that. Next thing that you can do is create a routine. So one thing about me that for me, you just gotta find what works for you. One thing that I noticed about me is when I'm trying to write long songs, or when I'm doing any type of creative writing, whether it's songwriting or essay or anything like that, I notice that my mind works better fresh in the morning. So, and that may be something that you may want to try as well. As soon as you wake up, just try to, you gotta be disciplined though, you know what I mean? So as soon as you wake up, you try to write down some ideas. What I noticed for me is, if I'm working too hard the night before and I just can't get that lyric right, or I can't get that hook, or I can't find that verse that I just been, trying to go so hard for, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead, put it down, go to sleep, wake up the next day, and I always find out that my mind has been refreshed, and I got new ideas, and I'm more creative than ever in the morning. So that's another thing that I would tell you guys to do. The last and final tip that I want to go over tonight is be sure to read books. The reason why I say read books is because these things, they really stretch out your mind. It put your mind in places that perhaps you never seen, or perhaps you never been, whether it's fact or fictional. Reading books can definitely inspire you. Can help, of course, it helps expand your vocabulary, and it gives you makes things a little easier when it comes to lyric writing. All right. So these are a few tips and tricks that I came up with that I personally use in order to, it helps me get through my songwriting process whenever I feel like I have writer's block. Again, these are tips and tricks for those who may be aspiring MCs. If you're a beginner, these are tips and tricks that are definitely going to be able to help you. Oh, and definitely, man, if you haven't checked out my website, be sure to go to twillsmusic.com. It's a lot of great merch on there. It's a lot of great music on there. I got like 6 or 7 albums that you guys can check out. And so, and also be sure to check out my blog. I'm writing about a lot of different things there as well. twillsmusic.com. Again, just want to say tell everybody thank you and welcome to the community. And if you got any tips or tricks that can help you out, that can help anyone out who may be, struggling trying to find the right lyrics, or struggling to write their first rap song, be sure to comment below and let's see if we can help these people out. All right. This is T Wills, man, signing out, and thank y'all for tuning in for another episode of Nuggets of Knowledge.